When were you last alone in nature? When did you last draw a picture, play an instrument, or write a story? I'm a professional landscape painter, and I've spent 181 days as an artist in residence for our national parks. I've had the opportunity to belong for a period of time to a landscape that we've collectively deemed exceptional. This experience allows artists to create work that is backed by an intimate knowledge of the personality of a particular time and place. There's a long history of artists supporting our parks, inspiring a sense of wonder and motivating us to preserve them for future generations. I dream that we'll all recognize the relevance of nature and the arts to us, both as individuals and as a society. That we will foster a love of artistic pursuits and stewardship of the outdoors. We recognize that spending time outside is good for us and makes us feel better. We talk about the importance of the arts and all that we gain from creating and maintaining a strong arts community. But we can do more to further enrich our own lives. Since longer than we can remember, artists have been inspired by nature. The diversity of the natural world is echoed in the variety of our human cultures. The diversity of individual experience drives the uniqueness of our individual artistic expressions. Witnessing interpretations from a new perspective challenges us to take a more conscious look at our own environment and choices. In the 1800s, artists from the Hudson River School, such as Thomas Moran and Albert Bierstadt, brought images of places like Yellowstone and Yosemite to the public. People fell in love with the wonders of the West and supported early endeavors towards conservation and preservation. The National Parks Artist in Residency programs continue the positive effect that the arts have in garnering public support for these very special places. I long to leave the main trails and seek out the lesser seen areas of our parklands. As a child, I would sit in the car and stare out the window and watch the distant horizon slowly move across the frame while the foreground raced past. I would imagine myself jumping from the car and taking off on foot and walking on until I was over the first hill and the next and then the next, until I was past the horizon and discovering what lay beyond. My time spent as an artist in residence has allowed me to accomplish that very thing on hikes such as the one that brought me here, and it's magical. There are wondrous things beyond that last hill, and I can share my discoveries with the world through painting. An artistic residency is an opportunity for an individual to exist in a time and space away from their usual environment and obligations. There are many opportunities for artists around the world and in our national parks, though typically funded by the individual artist and private funding sources. Artists of all kinds are welcome to apply. My first residency was for Badlands National Park, and I was later invited to return 3 more times. I've spent more than 28 weeks living in the park and developing a deep sense of belonging to this landscape and community. I went expecting solitude, something akin to Thoreau's Walden Pond. Instead, I was immersed in the culture and surrounded by a variety of individuals who taught me great things and invited me to share in experiences I hadn't imagined. I made connections that led to opportunities to work with wildlife. I was invited to help with a bison roundup, black-footed ferret spotlighting, and swift fox research. I also attended a cattle roundup and branding on a local ranch. I was able to experience the most remote and inaccessible areas, places no one goes. I acquired a broad knowledge of the history and current challenges of the south unit of the park, which is located on Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Scenes such as this are a result of the tragic history here. During World War II, when the Army Air Force had need of a space for bombardier training, the South Unit Badlands were chosen as a suitable location. Many families were quickly displaced to make room for an aerial bombing range, leaving some homeless. Old car bodies were placed across the landscape as target practice, and they're still there, along with unexploded ordnance and other hazards. This is not a place for a casual hike. Visitors must check with a ranger and be well educated and prepared. I know the land well enough to navigate my way through the park by comparing the colors, shapes, and locations of the buttes. I've hiked long distances to discover bizarre and mesmerizing landforms. I've ventured out with experienced park rangers, documenting unknown roads and sometimes getting the park vehicle stuck in deep mud. This richness of experience has deeply impacted the quality of my work and the quality of experience I look for future paintings. I know the smell of the air and the feel of the endless wind as it moves the grasses like waves on the ocean. I know the weight of the thick, dense Badlands mud clinging to the soles of your boots, and the rough feel of skin on rocks supporting a hazardous descent down a steep butte face. Part of me belongs here. I had a very different experience when I was an artist in residence for Rocky Mountain National Park. I lived a secluded, solitary existence with no cell service, internet connection, or contact with the outside world, apart from brief encounters on the trail and the 2 evening programs that I gave. My home was this historic cabin, whose original owner hosted presidents and dignitaries here. It offers unparalleled views of the scenery. My only company was the resident marmot who liked to chew on the cabin roof each night, the herd of elk that would graze their way across the yard, the elusive mountain lion that lived up the hill in back, and the countless birds and small mammals that passed by. Pushing past my old fears of wilderness and wildlife, I hiked alone constantly, an average of 8 miles each day of steep inclines at high altitude. I climbed a mountain peak in solitude, leaving before dawn and seeing no one until my afternoon descent. The isolation of my time at Rocky Mountain gave room to hear and see the landscape without distraction. I have many more paintings yet to forge from this place. The depth and variety of these experiences I never could have had without the Arts and Residence programs, have allowed me to conceive better, more relevant work, to promote the interests of the national parks, and to inspire visitors to look at and engage with the landscape in a different way, through a new lens. While in residence, I've had the opportunity to work with students of all ages, sharing my paintings, teaching, and endeavoring to foster an appreciation of the outdoors. Here at home, I teach an extracurricular class for fine arts at a local school. In this, the centennial year of the National Park Service, we focused on the national parks and the role of artists in promoting public awareness and preservation of wilderness. My residency experiences have greatly impacted the depth and quality of knowledge that I share with my students and community. We all need to slow down and exist in the present moment from time to time. Nature and the arts offer opportunities for this. We can exist in the now as creators, patrons, and explorers. So go outside, visit a local natural area. Here in Coeur d'Alene, we have Tubbs Hill, which is a city park. Go there, find a ponderosa tree, and check out the colors and textures of the bark. Maybe even try to draw it. If you're not sure which tree is a ponderosa, find out. Go to a national park. Choose to become one of the rare visitors who takes a longer hike away from the main road. Better yet, camp and see what the night sky looks like. Watch the sunset and the Milky Way rise. Venture into the wilderness. If that's intimidating, consider a class on outdoor skills. But whatever you do, be knowledgeable, responsible, and respectful. Practice the ethics of leave no trace and be a steward of the outdoors. Actively engage in the arts. The outcome doesn't matter, it's about the process. When I teach a wine and paint event, I hear, "I can't draw." No, really, I can't. My painting is going to be terrible. But they're never terrible, and people are surprised by how much they enjoy it and how good it feels to make something. Do this for yourself, whether you prefer writing, photography, playing an instrument, the list goes on. Nature and the arts are for us all. They're an essential part of the human experience. Collectively, we acknowledge that spending time outside is good for us. It makes us feel better. We talk about the importance of the arts and how much we gain from creating and maintaining a strong arts community. But as individuals, many of us struggle to make time for these endeavors. As young children, we naturally go outside and make art. As adolescents, our growing awareness of the world and our place in it creates fears of failure, judgment, and the unknown. Our natural capacity for discovery and exploration can dwindle. But we can change this. We can make art and go outside. We can make sure our children do too. It's critical that we create a culture that recognizes nature and the arts as essential for experiencing life to its fullest. We can actively support and expand public programs that preserve nature and wilderness and bring the arts into our lives, benefiting us all. My next challenge comes this August as I head to the Alaskan Arctic for my next artist in residency for the national parks. I'll be flown into the wilderness where my only contact with the outside world will be a satellite phone and a radio that can talk to any airplanes flying overhead. Then I'll stay in a small town and teach painting to local residents. I'll explore lakes and tundra and feel the water of the Arctic Ocean, then paint it. How will you next experience art and nature?